Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and today is Thursday, September 5th. Entering week 2. Week 1 was fun, but week 2, it's going to be crazy. We're going to cover all the big visits this weekend because I got Steve Wiltfong here, and my man Steve is as plugged in as anyone in this industry. We're going to get to sit down with him for the next 20 or 30 minutes and pick his brain and get all that intel heading into the weekend. Nothing gets you closer to being inside these recruiting war rooms than the Wiltfong Whiparound, so I'm excited for today's show. But before we get going, guys, I need you to do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're talking recruiting all season long. We need you guys to be a part of it, so jump on board and hit subscribe. And also, I know some of you watching have been considering jumping to On3. Well, right now, I can get you there for just $1. Use promo code FONG1. You can read all Steve Wiltfong stories, all Chad Simmons, Pete Nakos, all of them for just $1. That's promo code FONG1. All right, let's get this show started. Bring in Steve Wiltfong. Steve, what's up?
Hey, good morning. Just texting with Charles Power, Cody Belair right now, talking 2026 quarterbacks. Ryder Lyons is on the top of mind right now as we work through our 2026 rankings right now.
All right. Well, right now, we are not done talking Miami Hurricanes recruiting. Coming off that dominating win in the Swamp, recruiting fallout is still happening. You brought up a great topic off air with us. Last year's class, it was kind of built upon some of these big-time flips. Justin Scott, Marquise Lightfoot, Jordan Lyle, Armando Blunt, the 5-star that flipped from rival Florida State at the end, Nye Carr from Georgia, Darius Hayes from Florida, Elias Rudolph from Michigan. I mean, the list goes on. So, Steve, is this kind of the identity of Miami recruiting right now? We're going to come take your best recruits.
Well, they play the long game at Miami. There's no question about that. Mario Cristobal and company, they never give up on a recruiting prospect, even if they're committed elsewhere. That's obvious with that 2024 class. Word around the program, Jordan Lyle is going to be one of the next great Miami running back. And you didn't even mention, Josh, the Frederique kid. It was a subtle flip from West Virginia, but he's been maybe the most impactful from that class so far, starting at the cornerback position for the Hurricanes. They're certainly going to be looking to swing a heavy spatula here in the 2025 cycle, looking for flips. And the first two names that come to mind, 5-star cornerback DJ Pickett, the number 1 player in the state, our number 1 ranked corner in the country. And then on 300 receiver Joshua Moore. We have him ranked the highest at on 3. He's in our top 10 at the position. He's in our top 60 overall. Both were in Gainesville to watch Miami slaughter the Gators in that rivalry season opener. And DJ Pickett, we had the news this week at On 3 that he will be visiting Miami for the Florida State game later in the season. But I would not be surprised if he's in Coral Gables more than that earlier. We'll see if he pops up at a Miami game before the Florida State game. I think chances are strong. Now, LSU, he's got 3 LSU visits locked in for the future. Still going to be a tough flip, but I like the way the momentum is picking up for Miami there. And then Joshua Moore, I had a chance to talk with his dad yesterday. Long story on the On3 Recruiting Network. You can read it on our Miami site. You can read it on our Florida site. You can read it for $1 with the code FONG1. But talking to Joshua Moore's dad, said all the right things about Florida and the commitment, from it being the number 1 public academic school in the country, and that academics is more important than football. That DJ Lagway's there. They have their quarterback of the future. They really like Billy Napier. He's like, I know Coach Napier's on the hot seat, but it's one game. Florida has a chance to be 4-1 through their first 5, he said, before they get into the rugged portion of their schedule. So they'll obviously be keeping close tabs on Florida. But I suspect Miami's got a great chance to get Joshua Moore. And I think that it's trending very well. He visited there on Monday, Josh. I want to let you sneak in a question here to break up my long-winded answer, but I want to get back to Joshua Moore.
Well, let's talk. He visited on Monday. I mean, that's pretty significant, right?
Well, it was Labor Day. There's no school. But yes, he was able to get onto Miami's campus with his offensive coordinator over at West Broward, him and his 2027 running back, Amos Bradford, who I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot in future shows of Inside Scoop and Whiparound. Miami offered Bradford. They had the 3 of them on campus. He got to You got to see meetings and talk with the staff. And I'm telling you, Miami is way in that one for Joshua Moore.
Oh yeah, I mean the reason I'm saying isn't this a bigger deal because it's one thing for a recruit to show up at a game. You know, you can kind of downplay it. I just wanted to go see him play. I want to see him in action. Yeah, they're a team that's been recruiting me, so why wouldn't I go to a game? But to go for more of a one-on-one visit on a holiday, I mean, you know, that's taking time. That you're making that a priority.
His father, puts Kevin Beard in the same breath as Brian Hartline and points towards the development of Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George. He's like, you see these Miami receivers really growing. And his dad's a huge Hurricanes fan. So is DJ Pickett's dad, Damian. And these are two guys that their sons are not committed to Miami right now. But a Miami team that is humming, that's going to maybe win the ACC, which gives you a top 4 seed in the college football playoff, that is wild. And it's hard for me to imagine kids and families, Miami fans, they are the best at tapping into their network, their legacy recruits, their area recruits, and keeping them home. It is hard for me to imagine a Miami team having a great season, not ultimately signing DJ Pickett and Joshua Moore. And I think that there is a lot of momentum around Joshua Moore right now.
Yeah, everything you just said, I mean, it sounds to me like he's going to flip and potentially soon. Miami fans, am I wrong? Talk to me, comment section below. How do we feel about Joshua Moore flip chances? All right, speaking of more visits taking place at Miami, this weekend they'll have a important but light visit list. Drake Stubbs is going to be in. He's committed. Jabor Antoine, that's very important. He's going to come in. Gerard Pringle out of Armwood, running back that they like a lot. He's going to come in. Who else on this visit list interests you?
Well, I think that the big name outside of those commits, getting those commits back, is linebacker Kellen Wiley, an in-state recruit from Armwood. Elijah Melendez recently decommits. He's trending hard to Auburn. But Kellen Wiley is a senior riser that this Miami program loves. They've offered him a scholarship. He's got some great traits for the position. He's someone that I know they're very excited to get to campus this weekend for their first home game of the year. Full court press on Kellen Wiley. He is a name to keep an eye on for Miami fans.
All right, let's talk some Auburn recruiting as the Tigers are making a run at the #1 class in America. We've talked about them all week long. You know what else we've talked a lot about? Auburn flipping Deuce Knight. So, Steve, as we head into yet another weekend, I guess the only question here that remains is this the weekend that Deuce Knight flips his commitment from Notre Dame to Auburn?
Well, from the time I put in my On3 RPM to now, this is the best I've felt. I've always felt good about it, but I feel great about Auburn's chances to ultimately flip Deuce Knight, Notre Dame quarterback commit from Mississippi. He's having a lot of dialogue with his peers about potentially playing at Auburn, expecting him to perhaps be back on the plains this weekend as well for his second straight Auburn game. So things are going well, man. Relationship with Coach Austin, Coach Freeze, Kenyatta Watson's been huge in that recruitment. Auburn's history at the quarterback position, being part of adding his name to that list, playing in the SEC for this program, getting to know the young wide receivers, getting to know the recruits and the commits and the potential top targets. He feels very comfortable around Auburn. And I think Auburn's in great position. Ole Miss still trying to hang around. Notre Dame hoping to get him back to campus. But I like where it stands strongly for Auburn right now.
All right, Steve, you also wrote another great story on 5-star cornerback Naeem Alford, who is committed to Ohio State, but there's been buzz all summer, a little bit of buzz all summer about Naeem Alford in Auburn, maybe Alabama. But as we entered September, it just felt like something flipped. I shouldn't use the word flip. Something switched. The momentum really began surging for Auburn. And now at this point, I mean, I'm over on the Ohio State Letterman Row message boards, and Ohio State insiders are admitting, like, hey, yeah, this might be a guy that is tough for Ohio State to sign. I mean, it's not imminent that he's going to flip now, but what's your take on his recruitment after talking with him?
Well, he was at Big Cat Weekend at Auburn. He was at Auburn's season opener. Went with some family to the game last Saturday. There's no question he has a keen eye on Auburn. And there are people around this program that tell me that they think he's ultimately going to end up at Auburn. But talking to his dad and the family, still a lot of love for Ohio State. Yeah. Coach Walton, the cornerbacks coach there, full trust that he can develop them on and off the field. Looking to get back to Columbus for the Iowa game or the Nebraska game. And he's currently scheduled to go out to Oregon. They love Dan Lanning. They love that staff. He's currently scheduled to go out to Oregon for the Ohio State game. But maybe he ends up at Oregon sooner than that. There's some talk that he could take a visit out to Oregon sooner than that. So while it's easy to sit here and say in-state recruit, number one player in the state, 5-star corner, going to flip to Auburn. Auburn's doing such a fabulous job recruiting in-state players. Ohio State still committed there and going to get back. In Oregon, we know that they do a good job in these 5-star recruiting battles as well.
Well, you just hit on something. I might as well ask now. We don't hear anything about it, so I'm not putting him on flip watch by any means. But what about a guy like Zion Grady? He's also from the state of Alabama. He's committed at Ohio State. Auburn, I mean, everybody in the South wanted him, but is he a guy that Auburn's going to continue to recruit similar to Naeem Offord?
Well, Florida State's a school that has definitely still tried to recruit Zion Grady. Now, Zion Grady's taken a couple visits to Ohio State. He fell in love on his first visit, felt that same love for the school on his second visit. Larry Johnson and being coached up by Laurinaitis, guys like that, I think excite him. I think he's going to be a pretty tough flip for Ohio State as it stands right now. Sometimes these kids just fall in love with these schools, and I get that sense with Zion Grady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I don't have any reason to believe he is going to flip. He just kind of fit the bill of what you said Auburn kind of wants. They want to lock down the state, and they want to flip one from Ohio State. So, hey, why not?
Right. Ohio State, look, they've been in these games before. They've been flipped on. They hold on to J.J. Smith. They hold on to Edric Houston. They lose Jeremiah McClellan. They know what big boy recruiting is.
Absolutely.
They're prepared to battle for Naeem Offord. Coach Walton's relationship with him and the family is second to none. The development, the track record of development. Ohio State's been good every single year of all our lives. They're one of the most consistent football teams in college football, spanning decades upon decades. And those are all things that are attractive to Naeem Offord. And it's up to Auburn and Oregon to say we have a better situation because of X, Y, and Z. He knows what he's getting with Ohio State.
Yeah, and Ohio State has the number one class in America. They have the best recruiting class in the country, so it's no surprise that other teams are going to come after some of these players. So Ohio State playing a little bit of defense right now. But as far as it goes with Auburn fans talk to us. I mean, you got Elijah Melendez that could be committing soon. You got Uzme Kroma that's also trending heavily to Auburn. We don't know what Andrew Babalola is going to do ever, but hey, there's a
way in the thick of that one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Auburn targets out there that we're not even talking, that if they can win some more ball games, that we're going to be talking about some more flip targets. So Auburn fans.
Yeah, don't forget about Tyler Lockhart, linebacker, still RPM to Auburn. Wouldn't be surprised if he's there this weekend coming off a visit to Mississippi State. So still like my Auburn pick there too.
All right.
So Auburn fans.
Tap in, talk to us. How you feel in number one class? Is it possible? How many wins do you feel that Auburn needs to get to that number one class? Steve, personally, and I want you guys to chime in comment section below, but Steve, I think it's 8. I think Auburn has to win 8 games. If they win 7 games, I don't know if they can land the number one class in America.
Well, I just think it's about showing improvement, being in these big games. You know, they got Cal in Saturday afternoon. That's no layup.
When it comes to recruiting.
Arkansas is a very winnable SEC game at home to kind of kick off conference play for them. But they got some tough games. You know, Oklahoma, they get them at home. They're at Georgia. They're at Mizzou. They're at Kentucky. Vanderbilt, you got to win that one. L.A. Monroe. So, and then Texas A&M comes to your place, and then you're on the road for the Iron Bowl. I don't want to put a win total on it as much as every game just be exciting. have fun on offense, show you can play some high-level defense, and just be an exciting football team.
Winning is exciting.
And I think, they'll be there in the mix for the number one class in the country because no one's going harder on the trail than them right now. Maybe there's a couple schools. I mean, Miami and Auburn, those two teams are burning hot. We know Oregon's going to have another run. We know Oregon's going to have another run on them. Oregon's going to get a lot of kids to campus this fall. Again, we said they would in the summer, and they did. They're going to do it again in the fall. It's kind of in their DNA. And Georgia's got a chance to finish number one. A lot of good Georgia buzz behind the scenes right now.
Let's talk Michigan. Michigan Wolverines, they got a ton of talent coming to campus as the Texas Longhorns are coming to town. A huge matchup. And, Steve, there's one player that we think Michigan fans need to know. That's the number one running back in the 2026 class, Javian Osborne. He's back at Michigan this weekend. Where do the Wolverines stand with Osborne?
Either at or near the top of the list for Javian Osborne. He was last on campus at the end of July for the barbecue at the Big House. Now he's coming to see a game atmosphere, that environment in Ann Arbor. They were just at Texas A&M, the 12th man for the Notre Dame Texas A&M game. Now they're at Michigan, noon kickoff, the pageantry, the touch the banner, all of that at Michigan. They're excited to see Tony Alford. They view Tony Alford as like an extension of his dad. His dad, Maurice, tells me that Tony Alford reminds him of himself, the way he coached his son in Pee Wee football. He sees a lot of those similarities and really trusts Tony Alford to coach his son on the college level. These are two of his top teams. He's going to get a chance to see them play together, play against each other in the biggest game of the weekend, two top 10 teams in Ann Arbor. Michigan's got a great chance to sign him. They're also at or near the top of the list for Savion Hyder, another elite running back in the 2026 class. So I anticipate Michigan signing a good class. People are negative recruiting Michigan behind the scenes, Josh, telling these top prospects that they're going to get hammered with the Connor Stallion stuff and all of that. But Michigan's, they're telling these kids they're good.
Working?
They're fine.
I mean, you're talking to the recruits as well. Is the negative recruiting against Michigan working?
Well, I think that sometimes there's a little bit of hesitancy with some of these prospects, but I don't know if it'll be at the end of the day a reason why. I think they're obviously going to come on campus, see for themselves, and the Michigan coaching staff is doing a good job navigating those waters, and they got a big opportunity on Saturday to show that they're a contender again in Texas, week 2 at home.
You called it negative recruiting. I've always considered
negative recruiting. I'm with you.
It's just recruiting, right? It's not really. I mean, it shouldn't be called negative recruiting. It's just
it is. So negative recruiting. I have two thoughts on it. Negative recruiting is just recruiting, unless you're just throwing some BS at the wall. It's one thing. It's one thing to like be recruiting against the school, and you're recruiting a top 100, you're recruiting an elite wide receiver, and you tell them that you threw for 380 yards in week 1 and the other team threw for 100. It's not negative recruiting.
Okay, is it negative recruiting if you're battling for a wide receiver and you're telling that wide receiver that, hey, if you go to that school, that wide receiver coach is going to go to the NFL next year? Is that negative recruiting?
Well, I mean, it's just throwing it at the wall.
It's recruiting.
Right.
All right.
I mean, I guess if you say so, but I mean, I just think that there's an ethical way to do it or not. But to your point, like whatever. I mean, there's some people that are ethical recruiters and there's some people that aren't. I'm just saying that to just say every year that Larry Johnson is going to retire and he doesn't is,
something they know they got to counter. But yeah, all right, let's move it on. Let's talk Nebraska. There's going to be a big battle in Lincoln this weekend as the Colorado Buffaloes. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, he's coming to town. Nebraska is ready. They are rolling out. Well, I don't know if they're rolling out the red carpet for Deion, but they are rolling out the red carpet for recruits. There's going to be some guys in town. And this week, you've been on the phone with Michael Terry's family. Michael Terry, the number one athlete in America. He's out of the state of Texas. He's going to be back in Lincoln this weekend. It's a big visit. What are you hearing leading into the weekend?
Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend at Lincoln, Nebraska. Josh, Did you realize Nebraska's had 7 straight losing seasons? It's
I did
wild,
not.
right? Matt Rule and company working to change that this year. With that, there's a lot of anticipation heading into Saturday night showdown with Colorado. An absolute big opportunity to show that the trajectory of this program is on the uptick, and a win would be massive in front of a terrific group of prospects. They're bringing in top targets in 2025, 2026, and 2027. There's going to be a recruiting event before kickoff. Then they're going to bring the inside their brand new football facility. It's absolutely pristine, goes toe to toe with any facility in America. Then they're going to bring them into Memorial Stadium, one of the more special pageantry environments in college football. Let them soak in that environment in front of one of the best fan bases in America. Then they got to go get it done on the field. And if they do that, they have a chance to get their second straight top 2025 class in 2025, and it really sets the tone for them in 2026 and beyond with some of the guys that they have on campus. Michael Terry, we like where Texas stands for Michael Terry, but his dad says, look, Nebraska, I'll say this about Nebraska, no program's recruiting my son harder. And it's not just his son. They see it with a lot of other players. The Nebraska's coming hard for everybody as they try and turn it around. Michael Terry, they hope to make an impression on this weekend. Dawson Merritt committed to Alabama. That might be a bit of an uphill climb to flip him, but a great season certainly could level that playing field for Dawson Merritt. On 300 edge rusher, linebacker. Cortez Mills is an on 300 receiver committed to Oklahoma. That's coming back this weekend that Nebraska's looking to make a move for. He took his official visit for the spring game. So a lot of big time names in 2025. Christian Jones is coming. And then again, some of their top targets in 2026 and 2027.
Whew. All right, it is going to be a great weekend in Lincoln. I'm excited, so much so that, Steve, you and I are going to focus on this Nebraska-Colorado matchup for our recruit reaction show that we do every Saturday live. So as soon as this game ends, tune into the On3 Recruits channel, because Steve and I are going to go live. Steve's going to have, he's texting guys as they're walking into the stadium, at halftime, after the game. So Steve's going to have all that intel for you right here in the recruit reaction show. And also, we might have some guests. I mean, I'll say it. Michael Terry. I think Michael Terry, Steve, is going to call in during the show. You've been setting that one up.
Well, Nebraska's got to get the job done first on the field, or it becomes a Colorado show, right? But, we'll see what happens. Quarterback recruiting going to be big this weekend, Josh. You got Michael Clayton coming in. He is one of Nebraska's top targets at the position. He told me he's very excited to get out there and check it out. He's a top 25 signal caller per the On3 RPM. So many guys are already off the board. Nebraska has kind of zeroed in on Michael Clayton. They're one of the top contenders for Helaman Kasaga. A&M is my On3 RPM. I feel strongly about the Aggies, but I think Washington and Nebraska are two programs trying to change that narrative with Helaman Kasaga. And then you have Dayton Raiola visiting this weekend, obviously a legacy recruit. His brother's going to be the starting quarterback in this big game on Saturday night. His dad's one of the best players to don a Nebraska jersey on the offensive line. His uncle is the offensive line coach right now at Nebraska. So love where they stand with Dayton Raiola. Will Michael Clayton also be in the class? I think it's trending in a good way. They'll try and get Helaman Kasaga to campus this weekend. I'm not sure that happens, but they're in the middle of that one as well. And then Brody McWhorter is a quarterback committed to West Virginia right now, Josh. I think he's expected in Lincoln as well, another 2026 talented passer from the Peach State.
Steve, give me your pick on this game. I mean, all this talk, but what are your expectations? What's your pick for Nebraska versus Colorado?
Well, the one thing about this Colorado football team, when you looked at them last year and then watched them again in week one, they play hard for all 4 quarters. They got playmakers. If there was a win above replacement stat for college football players, Travis Hunter would have to be number 1 in that category, in my opinion. The way he lifts up everybody around him, the amount of snaps he plays in the secondary and at wide receiver, the way other people get open because he's on the field. Shedeur Sanders having that security blanket of Travis Hunter. He is electric. So I think that this game is going to be close, but I give the nod to the home team. I think Nebraska finds a way to get it done. They'll be 2-0. They're on track to have their first winning season in 8 years. How do you see it, Josh?
I'm taking Colorado. I think they score a lot of points, and I need Nebraska. I believe in Nebraska. I just need to see it. I need to see it. Colorado is going to – I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I just don't know if Nebraska can slow them down and if they can score with them. So we'll see. But, hey, you're going to Nebraska. I'm going Colorado. We will debate this after the game. You guys tap in. Let us know. Comment section below. How are we feeling not only about the game but about some of the visitors that will be on campus this weekend? All right. Let's also move on and talk a little Kentucky. We got a great matchup this weekend as Kentucky and South Carolina face off in an SEC battle. Kentucky trying to put together – they're sitting right now at 20. They're putting together a top 25 recruiting class and looking for more. What are you hearing on Wildcat recruiting?
Well, they're another program that's looking to swing the spatula this fall and flip a few top targets. They'll have one of those young men on campus this weekend on 300 tight end Mikael Skinner from Greer, South Carolina, Riverside High. He's currently committed to Cincinnati. He visited Lexington at the end of July. He visited South Carolina for their season opener. Now he gets to watch two of his top teams play against each other on Saturday. Vince Marrow's leading the charge recruiting for Kentucky here. I believe the Wildcats are the leader. Got to play well against the Gamecocks on Saturday. It's kind of a big opportunity for both programs, but I like Kentucky right now. A couple of other guys committed elsewhere that Kentucky is pushing for and also pushing to get on campus. You have Missouri safety commit Dylan Williams from Demopolis, Alabama. And you have Hamilton High athlete in Fairfield, Ohio, Noah King, who is a high upside athlete. He is currently committed to Kansas State, but he's already been to Kentucky a few times as well. Wildcats turning up the heat for Noah King and Dylan Williams as well.
All right, Steve, let's take it out of here. We have a big matchup also in the middle of the country. Iowa versus Iowa State. What are you hearing on this rivalry matchup when it comes to recruiting?
Well, I will have a bunch of their commits on campus for one of the best rivalry games in college football. And they'll also have a lot of key 2026 recruits, including their top quarterback target, Cash Herrera from California. He's coming in with several family members. I like the way it's trending for the Hawkeyes. They're battling UCLA for him. Julian Manson is an in-state outside linebacker target in that 2026 class that I logged an on-3 RPM prediction for. I think that they have a great shot to land him. His dad is on staff at Iowa. They're also hosting the in-state offensive lineman, the Witters kid. I think that they lead for him. And then some other key targets include tight end Roman Voss and offensive lineman Gene Reardon from the Chicagoland. So Iowa, they're about done in the 2025 class unless they find a senior riser that they like. But they are getting out in front with some of these 2026s. 2027s include Jax DeSheen. His older brother, Cooper DeSheen, was obviously a star in Iowa. His younger brother's our top-rated player in the state in 2027. He's going to be there. So Iowa, a lot of recruiting eyes will be on that Hawkeyes Iowa State rivalry game this weekend. We hope to have a lot of your eyes on our recruiting show, our instant recruit reaction show on Saturday. Please help us name that show something else, by the way. It's fluid right now, but Josh and I will be here Saturday night after the Nebraska-Colorado game. So please hit like and subscribe so you're updated on when all these shows are taking off, from the Inside Scoop to the 5-Star Flex to Whiparound. Speaking of Whiparound, we will be back on Monday breaking down everything that happened on the trail over the weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all soon.